in consideration. Translation. After describing the potency of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, my spiritual master taught me another verse, advising me to always keep the name within my throat. Very famous verse. No purport to that text, so we'll text number 76. Hare Nama. We can all chant together if you know it. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam. Kalo nashteva, 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 gatiya anyata. Translation. In this age of Kali, there is no alternative, there is no alternative, there is no alternative for spiritual progress than the holy name, the holy name, the holy name of the Lord. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. For progress in spiritual life, the Shastras recommend meditation in Satya Yuga, sacrifice for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu in Treta Yuga, and gorgeous worship of the Lord in the temple in Dwapara Yuga. But in the age of Kali, one can achieve spiritual progress only by chanting the holy name of the Lord. This is confirmed in various scriptures. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many references to this fact. In the 12th canto, it is said, Caitanya eva Krishnasya mukta sangha param brajet. In the age of Kali, there are many faults, for people are subjected to many miserable conditions. Yet, in this age, there is one great benediction. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can be freed from all material contamination and thus be elevated to the spiritual world. The Narada Pancharatra also praises the Hare Krishna Mahamantra as follows. Long Sanskrit verse, I'll read the translation. The essence of all Vedic knowledge, comprehending the three kinds of Vedic activity, Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, and Upasana Kanda, the chanda of Vedic hymns and the processes for satisfying the demigods is included in the 8 syllables Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. This is the reality of all Vedanta. The chanting of this holy name is the only means to cross the ocean of nescience. Similarly, the Kali Santarana Upanishad states, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. These 16 names, composed of 32 syllables, are the only means to counteract the evil effects of Kali Yuga. In all the Vedas, it is seen that to cross the ocean of nescience, there is no alternative to the chanting of the holy name. Similarly, Sri Madhvacharya, while commenting upon the Mundaka Upanishad, has said, another long Sanskrit verse, translation, in the Dwapara Yuga, one could satisfy Krishna or Vishnu only by worshipping him gorgeously according to the Pancharatriki system. But in the age of Kali, one can satisfy and worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, simply by chanting the holy name. In his Bhakti Sandarbha, verse 284, Srila Jiva Goswami strongly emphasizes the chanting of the holy name of the Lord as follows. Another very long Sanskrit verse. Srila Jiva Goswami states that the substance of all the Vedic mantras is the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Every mantra begins with the prefix Nama Om and eventually addresses by name the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By the supreme will of the Lord, there is a specific potency in each and every mantra chanted by great sages like Narad Muni and other rishis. Chanting the holy name of the Lord immediately renovates the transcendental relationship of the living being with the Supreme Lord. To chant the holy name of the Lord, one need not depend upon other paraphernalia, for one can immediately get all the desired results of connecting or linking with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It may therefore be questioned why there is a necessity for initiation or further spiritual activities and devotional service for one who engages in the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. The answer is that although it is correct that one who fully engages in chanting the holy name need not depend upon the process of initiation, generally a devotee is addicted to many abominable material habits due to material contamination from his previous life. In order to get quick relief from all these contaminations, it is required that one engage in the worship of the Lord in the temple. The worship of the deity in the temple is essential to reduce one's restlessness due to the contaminations of conditional life. Thus, Narad in his Pancharatriki Vidhi and other great sages have sometimes stressed that since every conditioned soul has a bodily concept of life aimed at sense enjoyment, to restrict this sense enjoyment, the rules and regulations for worshipping the deity in the temple are essential. Srila Rupa Goswami has described that the holy name of the Lord can be chanted by liberated souls, but almost all the souls we have to initiate are conditioned. It is advised that one chant the holy name of the Lord without offences and according to the regulative principles. Yet due to their past bad habits, they violate these rules and regulations. Thus the regulative principles for worship of the deity are also simultaneously essential. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmanitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master has very kindly come, forced to open my eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I offer my most respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet. As well as being, if it wasn't enough already, a self-effulgent acharya, by the time Srila Prabhupada arrived in America, he had 70 years of life experience. And yes, he was a stranger in a strange land, but he very generously, with all of us, his followers, included many of those profound life experiences, always seen through the prism of Shastra Chakshus, seeing the world and everything in it through the eyes of the Bhakti Shastras. And he's very mercifully included many of those profound experiences in his wonderful Bhaktivedanta purports, and he spoke often about them in his classes, morning walks, room conversations, and letters that he wrote. For example, Prabhupada could recall and spoke about an incident when he was just a boy, where in the early part of the 19th century there was a terrible plague in Calcutta. Many people were dying, and those who had the means fled the city, went back to villages in Bengal, perhaps where they originally came from. And the government officers, city officials tried everything they could. Medical science, of course, was not very advanced at that time, over 100 years ago. But at one point, one saintly person residing in Calcutta organised mass Harinam Sankirtan. And miraculously, within a few days, the plague dissipated. And Prabhupada recalled that even as he grew up, and had a profound effect on him, and his faith in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra deepened. Around that time also, Prabhupada once spoke about in a class, in the midst of the plague, a young boy and girl were married by their parents. They both came from desperately poor families. Somehow or other, they became husband and wife, and were set loose on the great journey of life as a married couple by their parents. And the young man took his marriage responsibilities very seriously, but he had no money neither. But he inquired from different relatives how he could earn a livelihood. And most of the family were also poor. But someone suggested you should go to a distant relative, not exactly a blood uncle, but As we know in Indian culture, sometimes persons are referred to as uncle or cousin brother, even though they're not related by blood. So this young man sought out this so-called uncle and inquired, told his situation and said, can you help me? Can you lend me some money? I want to start some enterprise. So the uncle said to him, why are you asking me for money? Money is lying out there in the street. You just need to go and collect it. The young man was bewildered. He said, what do you mean? And the uncle said, see, there's one dead rat. You collect that dead rat, you take it to the municipal office. They have a bounty on all dead rats and mice. You'll get some paisa. With that, you can go to the sabji market. You can buy some rotten betel nut. You wash it thoroughly, dry it in the sun, take it back to the sabji market, and you can sell it for a good profit. You do that often enough, you'll have some capital, and then you can purchase more opulent products and sell those in the market. So the young man did exactly that. And after doing that a number of times and working very hard, he collected a substantial amount of money and prospered to the point when Prabhupada told this story, this family became quite famous in Calcutta, the Nandi family. And during Prabhupada's time in Calcutta, it was well known they were employing not less than 200 people in their enterprises. And whenever anyone would ask, how was the business started? They would say, oh, Granddad started the business with the sale of, with one dead rat. That's how the business started. And Prabhupada liked this story, and he compared himself. He said, I came to America with 40 rupees, which were unchangeable. And Prabhupada started this incredible spiritual movement with the equivalent of 40 rupees. So, and he also gave other examples of his struggles. Of course, we know it was a great struggle, enormous struggle. He described how sometimes a blind man and a lame man will join forces to eke out a living. Neither has very good prospects in life. But if they cooperate together, then they can somehow or other eke out some living. So the blind man can take the lame man on his shoulders, and the lame man can direct, go here, go there, like that. Somehow or other they can get about and beg. So Prabhupada always compared the West to being blind spiritually, and India to not having the wealth, the prosperity that the Western world have. So if they combine together the wealth of the Western world with the spiritual knowledge of India, then the whole world can be benefited. And he also gave the example of a musician finding some discarded items in the street, some wire, a pump, the hard shell of a pumpkin that's been eaten out already by creatures, and a piece of timber. And by joining those three items together, he can create a very beautiful instrument and play very melodic music. So in this way, Srila Prabhupada was very innovative. When he came to America, he tried many different things to inject Krishna consciousness in the people of the Western world, as he'd been asked to do. For example, he put an advertisement in the New York Times newspaper for his Srimad Bhagavatams. Cost him a lot of money. He only got 3 replies. Prabhupada said the New York Times is the most influential and the best newspaper in the world. Just as he said London was the most important city in the world. And according to Janananda Maharaj, Prabhupada told him Paris was also the most important city in the world. So take your pick. Or we, of course, honour both. So, something that is mentioned 3 times, as in this famous, 3 times in the positive or the affirmative, Harinama, 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 and of course 3 times in the negative, Nashteva, Nashteva, Nashteva. Anything that's mentioned 3 times in the Vedas is considered very important, really worth taking note of. So this famous verse, possibly for many of us the first shloka we ever committed to memory and can still remember, is very wonderful. But Prabhupada was very broad-minded, very accepting and understanding that as he travelled the world, people may have other bona fide names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he encouraged them to chant those if they had some difficulty with Hari, Krishna and Rama, then chant whatever name they were familiar with, but chant Krishna's names. And after intense austerities and struggle, the first year in New York City, or in different parts, Butler, Pennsylvania, and then moving to New York. Of course, at 26 Second Avenue, the Krishna magic, as Jamuna Devi used to like to refer to it, started to manifest for Srila Prabhupada, and young people were coming, and the kirtans, I think 3 nights a week, and Srila Prabhupada lecturing primarily from Bhagavad Gita. But recordings are even there of those very early times in New York when Srila Prabhupada would also speak from Caitanya Caritamrita. Very wonderful. And people were really appreciating the kirtan, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And Prabhupada was so broad-minded that of course he'd acquired one small bongo drum, and he had his kartals. He once joked, after singing Jaya Radha Madhava in the early 70s, before speaking, he chuckled to himself and said, "These are the original pair of kartals that I brought from India to America." Who starts a worldwide organization with a pair of hand cymbals? But Prabhupada did that. So the kirtans were proving to be very popular, and that was the catalyst. It seemed. Some were philosophically inclined and would stay for Swamiji's lectures, as Prabhupada was of course known in those days. But others were only interested in the kirtan. And Prabhupada allowed whoever to bring their own musical instruments. The main thing was to get people to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which they were all only too happy to do. And the fact that it was a musical type of spirituality was even more attractive. There are spiritual paths which no singing, no dancing. There is a sect of ultra-Orthodox Jewish folks, no singing, no dancing. Closer to home, and we'll speak a little bit about that because this 7th chapter of the Adi Leela is very profound. It deals, of course, with Mahaprabhu's visit to the great city of Kashi, Benares. And what is the other name? Varanasi. Considered one of the oldest cities in the world by anthropologists. But the Shankarites, similarly, no singing, no dance. What to speak of dancing? Just study of Vedanta and meditation, and very austere eating, austerities and so on. But Mahaprabhu's movement is full of singing and dancing. Just as Krishna's pastimes 5,000 years ago in Vrindavan, also there's so much music, the Lord's, and dancing, the Lord's transcendental rasa dance, and even with the cowherd boys and the cowherding pastimes and picnic pastimes, we read how Krishna and the cowherd boys would often imitate the dancing of the peacocks and other animals, very artistic. And exalted personalities throughout the Lord's creation, they carry musical instruments everywhere with them. Narada Muni has his veena. Similarly, Lord Shiva has his din-din drum. And the goddess of learning also carries a stringed instrument. So, one particular evening at 26 2nd Avenue, the devotees were very enlivened to see many people were coming, many different people from the Lower East Side of Manhattan. It was a happening. And different famous personalities at the time would occasionally drop in for the evening kirtans. Allen Ginsberg, the famous beat poet of the day. And one night, a famous rock band of the district popped in for the kirtan for the first time. They were known as the Thugs. And they were famous for their loud music and outrageously obscene lyrics. And their lead singer and guitarist had long red hair and a long red beard. And he brought his guitar. And he strummed along. He picked up the chords of the Mahamantra, as Srila Prabhupada chanted. It wasn't amplified. But and they stayed for the lecture. And Prabhupada gave a very strong lecture, encouraging his young audience that this taste of spiritual life that you're experiencing is actually really the purpose of the human form of life. It's really what we're searching after, developing our relationship with Krishna. Sambandha, Abhidaya and Prayojana. Connecting with Krishna. And then experiencing this wonderful transaction. The Lord reciprocating with his aspiring devotees. And then the fruit, the full-blown love of Godhead, Krishna Prema. At some stage, when one is mature enough. So Prabhupada was encouraging, but he also spoke very strongly about the devastating effects on the conditioned soul of illicit sex life in the course of this particular lecture. He did not hold back, even quoting the famous verse of Jamuna Acharya, who in his former life was a great king and had enjoyed himself immensely, but in his old age was lamenting as he was experiencing the profound bliss of devotional service to Krishna. He was lamenting that whenever I think of my former sex life, my lips curl with distaste and I spite at the thought, which was the unique way that Prabhupada pronounced the word spite, which actually has even more intense connotation. If you're really spiteful, if you're really disgusted, detested, then there's a lot of spite. So after the lecture, the thugs never came back. And Hayagriva said to Prabhupada, Swamiji, if you speak so strongly, the Americans will never take to Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada said, I cannot change the philosophy to suit the Americans. And he didn't. And of course there are enough, as is obvious, sincere and serious young people, and some older people, who were impressed to the point to have faith in Srila Prabhupada and to assist him so many different ways to very firmly establish the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. And we see it is going on very wonderfully. And of course Krishna's name is the panacea. Nama Chintamani Krishnas Caitanya Rasa Vigraha Punashuddho Nitya Mukta Bina Tvam Naminamino. Nama Chintamani Krishnas. The holy name of Krishna is just like a wish-fulfilling gem. All our desires can be fulfilled simply by chanting Krishna's name. We're aware in Goloka Vrindavan there are wish-fulfilling desire trees that produce whatever fruits, not only which the divine couple, Sri Sri Radha and Krishna, would like to enjoy on that particular occasion, but also their devotees can approach those same wish-fulfilling desire trees and request. I feel like pomegranates. What about mango? Apples would be nice. So Nama Chintamani Krishna's holy name is wish-fulfilling, fulfills all our desires. Nama Chintamani Krishna Caitanya. We are worshipping Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Caitanya Rasa. Raso Vai Saha. Krishna. Krishna is the unlimited reservoir of all relationships. He's the original source of all relationships and all tastes. Shanta Dasya Sakya Vatsalya and Madhurya. Whatever aspiration the soul, the jiva has to serve Krishna and love Krishna, Krishna has unlimited capacity to reciprocate. The holy name actually has a form, Nam Prabhu Vigraha. Puna, he is eternally pure. Puna Shuddha, Nitya Mukta, eternally liberated. Non-different. So, and we read that Mahaprabhu in his travels would sometimes chant to himself, japa, and enjoying the pastime of renunciation, one of the Lord's 6 opulences, he would take some cloth and knot it, and he would chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra on that as a japa mala. So this visit to Varanasi, and the Lord had 2 associates. Had 2 personalities. There were 2 personalities residing in Varanasi at that time. 2 of the Lord's eternal associates. And they made all arrangements for Lord Caitanya to stay there. He stayed in one of their houses and he ate at the other. And by transcendental arrangement, Sanatana Goswami was residing for a period of 2 months, and he went there and he was instructed by Lord Caitanya at that particular time as well. So very profound, and of course the Lord eventually gave his mercy to Prakashananda Saraswati and his many followers, Mayavadi sannyasis in the Shankara Sampradaya. It's a delightful meeting where the Lord and his associates and the followers of Sripad of Prakashananda Saraswati were invited to lunch together. Lord Caitanya took a very humble position. As a sannyasi, he was accustomed to travelling everywhere barefoot, and as is the custom still today in India, there is often facility for washing one's feet outside a temple. So Lord Caitanya washed his lotus feet and then sat down in the same place. So Prakashananda Saraswati invited him, please, my dear Lord, don't sit in that unclean place, come and sit with us. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested an effulgence described by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami as more brilliant than millions of suns, which impressed the assembled Mayavadi sannyasis because they address one another as Narayan. And here, and their hope is, false hope at the end of their lifetime is to merge into Narayan, but as our acharyas say, they address one another as Narayan, but they only have 2 arms, whereas Lord Narayan, he actually has 4 arms. So already they're just being discounted as fraudulent, because if they were actually Narayan, then they would manifest all of their 4 arms. So Dharidra Narayan is of course another misleading falsity. Poor Narayan, Lord Narayan is of course an expansion of Krishna, and he owns everything, and his realm, Vaikuntha, is unlimitedly opulent. He's never poor. So of course very profound discussions ensued between Lord Caitanya and Prakashananda Saraswati. Prakashananda Saraswati was elderly, so Lord Caitanya offered him all respect as an elderly sannyasi. And he inquired from Lord Caitanya why you chant and dance in the company of fanatics. This is not the business of a sannyasi. A sannyasi should study Vedanta and meditate. That's the business of a sannyasi. And Lord Caitanya beautifully replied, very famous verse, Nacha gayo bhakta sange kara sankirtan, Krishna nam upadeshi harasavajana. From his initiating spiritual master, Srila Ishwara Puri. After his initiation, Ishwara Puri gave this instruction to his disciple, who happened to be God, the Supreme Lord, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. My dear child, continue dancing, chanting and performing Samkirtan in the association of devotees. Furthermore, go out and preach the glories of Krishna Nam. In this way you will be able to deliver all fallen souls. So Mahaprabhu took this instruction, of course, to heart, even though he is the Supreme Lord himself. So this was the reply that Lord Caitanya gave. Further to that, he said, my spiritual master considered me a great fool, and he said I wasn't fit to study Vedanta. So, of course, Lord Caitanya is the original propounder of Vedanta philosophy, being Krishna himself. Vedaischa saberaham eva beja, Vedanta krit, Vedanta eva chaham. By all the Vedas I am to be known, Krishna says. Indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedas, as Srila Vyasadeva, and the knower of the Vedas as well. And back to 26 Second Avenue, when one young man did come to Srila Prabhupada and introduced himself as a Vedantist, and Prabhupada, of course, immediately asked him, did he know the meaning of Vedanta? And the young man wasn't sure. So Prabhupada very patiently explained, Veda means knowledge, Ananta means the end of. Just like we have 3 sections of this wonderful Chaitanya Caritamrita, Adi, Madhya and Antya-lila, the end. The beginning pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, the middle pastimes and the final pastimes. So it's a wonderful section, very long chapter. I attempted to read the entire 7th chapter in preceding days. I didn't get to finish it because there's so many delightfully long purports, so pregnant with meaning and philosophy. I read for several hours each day. It's incredible, and that's just one chapter of this wonderful Caitanya Caritamrita. So it's annoying me because I'm trying to remember the names of the two personalities. Sorry? No, not Chandrasekhar and Tapan Mishra. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's how we do things. We help each other out. So I might stop here and just see there's some discussion, so many learned devotees present. If anyone has a correction, please comment or question. We'll try and answer. Vaishnavi, did you have your... Is there a microphone? Okay. Or I can try and repeat the question, but whatever.
For the class, you mentioned that fulfilled all desires, and you talked about the desire tree. But I've also heard where my spiritual master says we need to also be careful what desires we have, because if our material desires are stronger than the other ones in the overall. Because he gave the example of someone who went to Vrindavan and then this person was already married and his marriage didn't work out. But he's a strong devotee, and then so much hugged the tree and said, we prayed that maybe progress strongly in his Krishna consciousness and maybe remain single and continue on. And then he said, why did you make that desire, that other devotee, and hug the tree? And he said, I want to get married, and then he ended up with a ready-made another family. So sometimes the desires may not be so good for our spiritual life. So how do we develop that the desire? Because I know Vaisheshika Prabhu often he prays, and it's not even a material desire, but even a spiritual desire, and he says, if that is your will, Krishna. So how do we develop good Krishna conscious desires?
Nice question. So, yes, we have to, just like somebody, Hare Krishna, that is okay. So, the swan's a very good example, Hamsa, and we're aspiring to become Paramahamsas. Whoa. Hare Krishna, let's see. I'll let you. That's all right. It might have... Battery? Oh, here we go. Okay. Yeah, I can hold in the hand, yeah. And then I can give it back. Hare Krishna. Let's see. Not sure. Krishna Kirtan. Battery's gone? Okay. It's got a red light, but... Okay. All right. We may be knowing that well, different examples, but the swan has a beautiful curved neck, and at a certain point, biologically, in the neck of the swan is where the filtration takes place. And of course, we know this example is there that Paramahamsas, they've learned the art of filtering out what is unnecessary. Anartha means something meritorious, worthwhile. You put an A in front of it, Arnartha means it really has no value. So devotees have to learn the art of filtering out that which is ultimately worthless, is going to impede my spiritual progress. Just like gardening, sometimes weeds come up. They look just like the plant that we're trying to cultivate nicely, but if we learn the art of distinguishing which is a weed and which is the worthwhile plant, and then we pluck out the weed. because otherwise it can come up, and as you say, it can rightly choke the worthwhile plant, just as the Bhakti Lata Bij in its immature state is very, very vulnerable. It can easily be trampled upon and destroyed. So one has to protect one's most valuable possession, the Bhakti Lata Bij, the creeper of devotion, so that ultimately it will achieve shelter at the lotus feet of the divine couple, Sri Radha and Krishna, in Goloka Vrindavan, which is our ultimate aspiration. Along the way, devotees may achieve some material prosperity, even may get a big position, a good person to think about in that regard is Madhavendra Puri, the grand spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the spiritual master of Ishwara Puri. And he would often travel alone. That was his preference. And he did not, even though he was the most famous devotee of Krishna of his day, and he had many very exalted disciples, like Advaita Acharya. It's said that Lord Nityananda Prabhu may have been initiated by Lakshmipati Tirtha, but he definitely associated with Madhavendra Puri in Vrindavan, perhaps at some point in his travels. And there were other very exalted associates of Mahaprabhu, perhaps some who came and lived with the Lord, who were also disciples of Madhavendra Puri. Ishwara Puri, of course, and the infamous Ramchandra Puri, who wasn't a good disciple. But Madhavendra Puri was very fearful of, or just to give one example, of reputation. He didn't want to be glorified, so for that reason he travelled on his own to be known as a great devotee. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he likened reputation to be renowned as a great devotee of Krishna, the equivalent to an enormous pile of hog stool, which actually doesn't have much value at all. You can put it on your garden as a fertilizer, that's about it. So devotees are very wary, and we have so many countless examples of that too. They're like flags, red flags on the path of bhakti. Beware. This is the example, this is the personality. He warned against this. Try and keep one's life simple living, high thinking, as opposed to the opposite of that. And if some, for example, spiritual masters are offered by their disciples facility, money to utilize in whatever their particular mission is, they're offered glorification on their appearance days, and so on and so forth. But the spiritual masters immediately offer whatever praise is being offered to them, to their spiritual master. And then it goes up the hierarchy, the chain of disciplic succession. Their spiritual masters offer to their spiritual masters, it goes that way. So they never accept anything for themselves. They're always offering it on. And whatever facility Krishna gives them or doesn't give them, they're equipoised. Is that helpful, Vaishnavi? Anything else? All right, yes? I think Ganga might have just been stretching. Did you have a question, Ganga? Comment?
No, I was
yeah?
thinking that because in the purpose of Prabhupada mentioned about initiation, they usually mention on and one doesn't need initiation, but then quotes say that within this fallen age, people, maybe you want to say
Yeah, thank you. Well, we are Rupanugas, or we're aspiring Rupanugas, followers of Rupa Goswami. And the 64 items of devotional service to Krishna as enunciated by Srila Rupa Goswami, the first three, one of the first three, is to approach a spiritual master, to serve him, to inquire from him, and to take initiation from him. So it's very much a part of our tradition. It's essential. It's the protocol. Just as there are protocols in everything we do in life. And Krishna has made this arrangement that we surrender to his representatives in this world. The Vaishnavas and spiritual masters who take that responsibility. Gostyanandi means one who is anxious to expand the Achyuta Gotra, the family of Krishna. And I'm delighted because ever since Srila Prabhupada's disappearance, we quite often sit in on initiation ceremonies in recent years, and we're always gladdened to hear our revered seniors initiating new disciples and welcoming them into the family of Srila Prabhupada. So that's delightful to always hear that, which is Krishna's family, the Achyuta Gotra. So yes, it is. And as Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati would say, it's a big step, because essentially what we're doing when we take initiation, they refer to it as declaring totalitarian war on Maya. Because you're vowing, in many instances, but not always, you're sitting here like in this temple room in front of their lordships, in front of the Guru, all the assembled Vaishnavas, the sacred fire, and you're vowing from this day forward, I'm going to chant these 16 rounds of minimum of the Maha Mantra every day, and I'm going to follow these 4 rules. So that's a vow, and vows are very important. Of course, we may stumble from time to time. Failure is the pillar of success, but we pick ourselves up, we dust ourselves off, and we carry on. So, and they're known as samskaras, which leave an indelible impression on the consciousness at that time. Just like some of our younger devotees may not know, but once upon a time there were vinyl records. Yeah. Music was not all electronic as it is these days. And there were grooves on the records. You put the record on, and for those of us who had record collections, if you scratch that vinyl record with the needle, you may as well throw it away. Use it as a frisbee, whatever. But those grooves on the record, it's just like a samskara, important events in a person's life, especially a devotee's life. They're very significant. They leave a profound effect on the consciousness. Is that all right, Prabhu? Thank you. Anything else, Prabhuji?
It gives the devotees pleasure to know my wife and I take an initiation tomorrow, but it won't be in temple room, it will be at home, after Zoom. We're seeking the blessings of all the Vaishnavas that we can become.
Hari Bol! Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Wonderful news. Yes. Unfortunate that, but anyway, that's such are the times. But yeah, don't. Yep, please, another.
Thank you for all your comments on initiation. It's very inspiring.
Thank Ganga, he reminded us, but yeah, it was. He did, yeah. All right, thank you so much. Sri Caitanya Charitamrita Ki.